Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into medieval times, a period where people woke up every morning, looked at their surroundings, and collectively
Will you
agreed,
always
yes,
be
this is
with me?
fine.
Always,
Before
my
you
dear.
settle in,
I
take a moment.
promise.
I believe
Like
you.
the video. Subscribe. But
We
only
have to
if you
keep moving.
genuinely
The fog is
enjoy
getting
what I do
thicker.
here.
I know.
I don't
But
want
the bones,
passive
they're
clicks.
everywhere.
I want you to be part of this journey.
Your Holiness, I
Let me ask
implore
you
you,
something.
show mercy.
Do you
The
remember
law is
learning
clear.
about the
There can be
Middle
no
Ages in
exception.
school
But he
knights
is
in
innocent.
shining armor, grand castles, chivalry and honor? That's what they taught us, wasn't it? The romance, the nobility, the codes of conduct. They left out the rest. They left out the parts where children played tag among corpses, where doctors tasted bodily fluids to diagnose illness, where a pig could stand trial for murder with full legal representation, where women were expected to be silent in Europe while simultaneously ruling empires on the Mongolian steppes. Comment below and tell me what surprises you most tonight. I genuinely want to know. What moment makes you stop and think, how did they live like that? How did they survive? Now dim the lights if you can. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. Let the world outside fade for a while. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Have you ever wondered why medieval people didn't fear death the way we do? Have you ever asked yourself how entire societies functioned without the things we consider basic sanitation, medicine, privacy? What if I told you that normal is just whatever we're forced to accept? What if I told you that horror becomes routine when you're born into it? What if I told you that halfway across the world in the Mongol Empire, a woman named Alima was living a completely different version of normal, one that would shock medieval Europeans as much as their world would shock us? Here's the thing about humanity. We adapt. We always adapt. Give us death and we'll build markets around it. Give us pain and we'll create rituals to endure it. Give us impossible circumstances and within a generation, they become ordinary. That's what tonight is about. Not just what medieval people did, but how they convinced themselves it was fine, how they took the unthinkable and made it ordinary, and how in a completely different world, other people created their own version of normal that was equally strange but utterly different. So take a breath. Congratulations. It's October in the year 1265. You're standing in the town square of a small settlement in Kent, England, a farming community, maybe 300 people, mostly peasants, a few craftsmen, one priest, one minor lord who lives in a manor house on the hill. The air smells like wet earth and wood smoke. There's something else underneath, something organic. Decay, maybe? Or just life pressed too close together without anywhere for the waste to go. The ground beneath your feet is mud mixed with straw. It squelches when you walk. Your boots, rough leather if you're lucky enough to have them, are already caked in it. Around you, wooden buildings lean against each other like tired old men. Thatched roofs sag. Smoke rises from every chimney, thin and gray, merging with the low clouds overhead. It's cold, not freezing, just that damp English cold that seeps into your bones and refuses to leave. And you're about to witness something that will define this entire era. You're about to see how medieval people lived with death. Not feared it, not avoided it, lived with it, like a neighbor who never moved out. You are Thomas Miller, 32 years old. A miller's son who inherited your father's trade 5 years ago when he died of a fever that came on fast and left him cold in 3 days. You remember that. Everyone remembers their first close death. But you've seen so many more since then. Your mother, your infant daughter, 2 of your neighbors, the blacksmith's wife, a child who fell into the mill wheel. You're not unusual. Everyone in this town has lost someone, multiple someones. That's just life in 1265. You're walking through the center of town now, mid-morning. The market is setting up, vendors arranging vegetables, turnips, onions, cabbages. A butcher hanging meat on iron hooks. Flies swarm despite the cold. Children run past you laughing. Their clothes are patched and brown with dirt. Their faces are smudged. But they're children. They don't care. They're playing. And then you notice where they're playing. The churchyard, not beside it, not near it, inside it. The church sits at the edge of the square, stone and solid, one of the few permanent structures in this town. St. Mary's, built 100 years ago, maybe more. Around it, the graveyard spreads out in uneven rows. Wooden crosses, stone markers, mounds of earth, and gaps, lots of gaps. Because medieval graveyards weren't like the ones you'd recognize. They weren't carefully maintained memorial gardens with flat lawns and fresh flowers. They were working spaces, public spaces, busy spaces. People cut through them to get to market. They met there for private conversations away from prying ears. They ate lunch sitting on old grave markers. And yes, children played there, not because they were morbid, but because it was just another piece of land, another open area. Death wasn't hidden, it was geography. You watch a boy, the baker's son, maybe 8 years old, chase a girl around a headstone. She's laughing. He's shouting something about catching her before sunset. They disappear behind a low stone wall. An old woman walks past you carrying a basket of bread. Agnes, you know her. Everyone knows everyone here. She doesn't even glance at the graves. She's walked this path 1,000 times. A man leans against a wooden cross waiting for someone. He picks at his teeth with a twig. John the tanner. His clothes smell like the pits where he works leather. Normal. This is normal. And then you see it. A bone, just lying there in the mud, half buried, pale and smooth. It's a femur, a human femur. You stop walking. Your stomach tightens slightly. You're not horrified you've seen this before, but it still registers, still catches your attention. But no one else reacts. Agnes steps over it without breaking stride. The children run past it. John glances at it briefly, then looks away. Of course, because in medieval, Kent bones surface all the time. Graveyards are overcrowded. Space is limited. Bodies are buried shallow, sometimes only 2 feet deep. Rain erodes the soil. Coffins rot within months if there were coffins at all. Most people are buried wrapped in shrouds. Simple cloth that decays even faster. And bones, well, bones emerge, like mushrooms after rain. Predictable, seasonal, unremarkable. Finding a skull after a storm isn't a horror movie moment. It's a maintenance issue. The medieval equivalent of seeing a pothole and thinking someone should probably deal with that. Eventually, maybe, you keep walking, trying not to stare. But you can't help it. There are more bones. A ribcage poking out near the church wall. Part of a skull, dirt-filled and moss-covered, resting beside a tree root. And still no one cares. Father Benedict walks by. The priest. Black robe, silver cross hanging from his neck. He sees the femur. He nudges it with his foot, pushing it slightly to the side of the path. Then he continues on his way. Not horrified, not traumatized, just tidying. You want to ask someone, anyone, if this bothers them, but you already know the answer. No, because death in medieval times wasn't a distant concept. It wasn't something tucked away in funeral homes and sterile hospital rooms. It wasn't polite. It wasn't hidden. It was present, constant, unavoidable. People died young here. They died often. Disease, childbirth, infection, accident, violence. Death arrived frequently and without warning. Your own daughter, Mary, she would have been 3, now died from a cough that wouldn't stop. Just a cough. In 3 weeks, she was gone. So what are you supposed to do? Panic every time you see a reminder. Shut down emotionally. No. You adapt. You build your life around it. You make peace with it. You stop letting it control you. And eventually it stops being terrifying. It becomes part of the environment. Like mud, like church bells, like the smell of John's tanning pits. Let's be honest. We do the same thing today. We adapt to whatever horror surrounds us. We just pretend we're more civilized about it. You walk closer to the church. The door is open. Inside you can hear singing. A service is underway. Father Benedict must have gone inside while you were lost in thought. But outside, near the back wall, something catches your eye. A pile, a neat organized pile, of bones, skulls stacked like firewood, femurs arranged in rows, ribs bundled together, all placed carefully against the stone wall of the church. This isn't neglect, this is intention. You stare at it and the understanding washes over you again. You've seen this your whole life, but sometimes it still strikes you as strange. When graves get too full, they don't expand the graveyard. There's no more land. The church owns what it owns. The fields beyond belong to Lord Edmund, and he's not giving up farmland for corpses. So they dig up old graves, remove the bones, make room for new bodies. And the bones, they don't throw them away. That would be disrespectful. These were Christians. They'll be resurrected on Judgment Day. Their bones matter. So they keep them, stack them, organize them. Because even in death, there's a system, a logic, a way of managing the unmanageable. You can't make this up. Medieval people turned death into an organizational problem, and they solved it with the same practical efficiency they brought to everything else. Need more space. Dig up the old bones, stack them neatly, move on. Here's where it gets interesting. Those bones don't just sit outside. You know this because you've been inside the church crypt. Once, when you were younger, when old Father Martin was still alive and he took you down to show you. The bones are brought inside, into chapels, into rooms specifically designed to hold them. These places are called ossuaries, and they're everywhere, not just here in Kent, all across Christendom. You remember descending those stone steps, the air getting colder, the smell of earth and something else, something old. And then you saw them. The walls weren't painted with frescoes of saints and angels. They were built with bones, skulls arranged in patterns, femurs forming columns. Entire architectural elements constructed from human remains. Not as a warning, not as a horror show, as decoration, as a reminder, as a kind of comfort, strange as that sounds. Father Martin had explained it to you. These are our brothers and sisters in Christ Thomas. They rest here. They watch over us. They remind us that we are all equal before God, Lord and peasant, rich and poor. We all end up the same. Memento mori. Remember, you must die. But also remember that others have died before you, and their bones still rest here. Organized, peaceful, watching over the living. It's a strange kind of comfort, but it works. You've prayed in that crypt, knelt before those walls of bones and asked God to protect your remaining family. Your wife, Sarah, your son, William, who's 5 now, healthy, thank God, strong, and you felt peace. Because the bones weren't frightening. They were just reminders that everyone ends up here, that death is universal, that you're part of something larger than yourself. A voice pulls you back to the present. Thomas, you turn. It's William Carpenter. He's walking toward you, wiping sawdust from his hands. Going to market, he asks. I, you say. Needed to buy oats. You, same. Barley for me. He glances at the pile of bones, doesn't react. Father Benedict says they'll move those to the crypt next week, after the holy day. Good, you say. Rain's coming. Best to move them before they get scattered. This is the conversation. This is normal. Discussing the logistics of bone storage like you're talking about hay or firewood. William nods toward the market. Walk with me. You do. The two of you walk past the graveyard, past the children still playing, past the femur still lying in the mud. Life continues, right next to death. Not in spite of it, not avoiding it, just alongside it. You reach the market square. The noise increases. Vendors calling out their wares. The smell of fresh bread from the baker's stall. Someone is arguing about the price of cheese. Children are still playing. One of them trips over a stone marker at the edge of the graveyard and falls into the mud. He gets up, laughing, mud smeared across his face. Keeps running. A young woman walks past carrying flowers. Margaret, the weaver's daughter. She stops at a grave near the church entrance. Recent grave, you know who it is? Her mother dead 2 months ago in childbirth. The baby died too. Margaret places the flowers carefully, says a quiet prayer. Then she turns and walks back toward the market, her face calm but sad. Grief exists here. Of course it does. You've felt it. The hollow ache when your daughter died, the way Sarah cried for weeks, the way you still sometimes wake up and think you hear Mary coughing in the next room. People mourn, they cry, they feel loss, but they don't let it paralyze them. Because paralysis isn't an option. Life demands too much. Work has to be done. Food has to be grown. Families have to be raised. The mill has to run. Grain has to be ground. So you grieve, yes, but you also move forward. You carry your dead with you literally in the case of those bones and keep going. And perhaps that's the creepiest thing of all. Not the bones themselves, not the overcrowded graves or the casual attitude toward decay, but the fact that something so terrifying became so familiar that it barely registers anymore. When horror becomes ordinary, what does that say about us? You buy your oats, William buys his barley. The two of you talk about the weather, about the harvest, about whether Lord Edmund will raise the taxes again this year. Normal conversation. Behind you, through a gap between stalls, you can see another section of the graveyard. More crosses, more mounds, more bones peeking through the soil. And beyond that, St. Mary's itself. Stone walls rising solid against the gray sky. A place of worship, a place of refuge. And underneath, beneath the floor, beneath the altar, beneath your feet, when you kneel to pray, centuries of dead, packed tight, layer upon layer. The medieval world isn't built on top of the past. It's built directly into it. William says goodbye, heads home with his barley. You stand there for a moment, oats in your sack, looking at the church. You think about the crypt, about the bones arranged so carefully, about Father Martin's words, "We are all equal before God." And you think about Alima. Wait, who is Alima? You don't know anyone named Alima. But lately you've been having these strange dreams. Dreams of wide open spaces, grasslands stretching forever, horses running, a woman with dark hair and sharp eyes managing something you don't understand, riders carrying messages, a world where women speak loudly and no one tells them to be quiet. You shake your head. Just dreams, probably from eating that questionable cheese last week. But the dreams feel real, like memories that aren't yours. You push the thought away, turn toward home. The mill is waiting, grain to grind, work to do. You walk through the streets of Kent, past timber-framed houses, past the smell of cooking fires and animal pens, past the small plots where people grow vegetables. And as you walk, you pass another graveyard, a smaller one, a family plot behind one of the larger houses. A wooden cross marks where someone, a child from the size of the grave, was buried last winter. The family still lives there. You can see smoke rising from their chimney. They cook meals 50 feet from that grave. They sleep at night with their loved one just outside the window. And they're fine. Of course they're fine. Because that's what humans do. We adapt, we normalize, we survive. And medieval people are survivors, not heroes, not saints, just people doing what needs to be done in a world that offers no other choice. You reach your house. Small, timber frame, thatched roof, one room downstairs where you live and eat, one room upstairs where you and Sarah sleep. William sleeps downstairs near the fire. Sarah is stirring a pot over the hearth. She looks up when you enter. You got the oats? Aye. Good. William's been asking for porridge. Your son runs over, grabs your leg. Papa, can we go to the river tomorrow? Maybe, you say, if the millwork is done. He grins, runs back to whatever game he was playing with carved wooden figures. You set down the oats. Look at Sarah. She's thin. Everyone's thin here. Food is never abundant, but she's strong, capable. She manages the household, tends the small garden, makes cloth raises, William. She's survived 3 pregnancies. Lost one. That's better odds than many women. You think about Margaret's mother, dead in childbirth at 28. You think about all the women who die that way, who die from fever, from accidents, from infections that start small and spread fast. Sarah catches you staring. What? Nothing, you say, just glad you're here. She gives you a small smile, goes back to stirring. This is survival. This is life. This is normal in 1265. You eat dinner, porridge, bread, a bit of cheese. William chatters about his day, about the dogs he saw, about the game he played in the churchyard. Yes, the churchyard, with the bones. And he's fine. He's not traumatized. He's just a child playing, because that's what children here learn. Early. Life and death aren't separate. They're intertwined. You play where your grandparents are buried. You help your mother prepare your sister's body for burial. You watch Father Benedict bless the graves. You learn that death is part of life, not the end of everything, just a transition. And maybe that's healthier than pretending death doesn't exist, than hiding it away, than teaching children that death is the worst thing imaginable and should never be discussed. Medieval children know death intimately, and they grow up functioning, loving, building lives. You can't make this up. After dinner, you step outside. The sun is setting. The sky is streaked with orange and pink. You can see St. Mary's from here, the stone tower rising above the thatched roofs, solid, permanent. And you think about what's underneath, what's inside the walls, what's stacked in the crypt. All those bones, all those lives, all those people who were once like you, who worried about harvests and taxes, who loved their children, who laughed and cried and worked and died. And now they're part of the church itself, built into it, supporting it, watching over the living. There's something almost beautiful about that, almost. But it still requires living your daily life surrounded by human remains. And that takes a certain kind of emotional adaptation. The kind you've developed, the kind everyone here has developed, the kind you'll teach William to develop. Because he'll need it. He'll see death too. Probably soon. Probably often. That's just how life works. You go back inside, help Sarah clean up, tuck William into a sleeping spot near the fire. He looks up at you with those bright eyes. Papa? Yes. Why do we bury people in the churchyard? You pause, think about how to answer. So they can be close to God, you say. Close to the church, close to us, so they're not alone. But they're dead, William says. They can't feel alone. No, you agree, but we can. And it helps us to know they're nearby. He thinks about this, nods. Like grandmother, your mother, buried 3 years ago, in the churchyard, under one of those wooden crosses. William has played near her grave hundreds of times. He leaves flowers there sometimes. Talks to her, he says. You don't discourage this, it seems right. Sleep now, you say. Tomorrow, there's work. He closes his eyes, falls asleep quickly the way children do. You and Sarah climb the ladder to your room. The straw mattress, the thin blankets. You lie down, close your eyes, and you dream. You dream of those wide grasslands again, of Alima. She's standing on a vast plain, the wind whipping her dark hair. She's wearing clothes you don't recognize. Pants, not a dress. Boots made for riding. She's looking at something in the distance. Riders approaching. Fast. She turns, looks directly at you. Her eyes are fierce, knowing. She says something. You can't hear the words, but you understand the meaning. Survival looks different everywhere, but it's always the same. We do what we must. You wake with a start. Sarah is asleep beside you, breathing softly. The house is quiet except for the wind outside, the creak of timbers. You lie there staring at the dark ceiling. Who is Alima? Why do you keep dreaming about her? And why does it feel like her world and your world are somehow connected? You don't have answers, but you have a strange feeling that you will, eventually. That somehow across time and distance, there's a thread connecting your life in this small Kent village to a woman on the Mongolian steppes. A woman who understands survival in ways you're only beginning to grasp. But that's for later. For now, you're here, in 1265, in Kent, in a world where death is a neighbor and bones are furniture and children play in graveyards. And you're okay. You've adapted, just like everyone else. Just like Alima, wherever and whenever she is, has adapted to her own impossible world. Because that's what humans do. We survive. No matter what it takes, you close your eyes again. Let sleep take you. Tomorrow there's work, the mill, the grain, the endless cycle of medieval life. But tonight you rest, surrounded by the dead, living among them, accepting them. In a world where normal means something completely different than it will 500 years from now. Where horror becomes routine. Where survival requires adaptation. Where humanity proves again and again that we can live through anything. As long as we learn to call it normal. Part 2. Medicine of Madness, 6,000 words. 3 years pass. It's 1268 now. You're 35. William is 8. Sarah is still alive, thank God for that. The mill still runs, the seasons turn. But something's wrong with you. It started small, a cough, nothing unusual. Everyone coughs in winter. The cold, the damp, the smoke from the fires. But this cough hasn't stopped. It's been 2 weeks, getting worse. Your chest hurts. You have a fever. At night, you sweat through your clothes. Sarah is worried. You can see it in her eyes, though she doesn't say much. You need to see Master Gregory, she says finally, the physician. You don't want to. Physicians are expensive. You're a miller, not a lord. You have some money saved, but spending it on a doctor. But the cough is bad. You're coughing up something dark, and the fever makes it hard to work. So you go. Master Gregory lives in the larger town 3 miles away. Canterbury, a real city with stone buildings and proper streets. You walk there early morning, coughing the whole way. His house is timber-framed, but nicer than most. 2 stories. Glass in some of the windows, real glass, not oiled cloth. You climb the exterior stairs. Knock. A servant opens the door, a young man. He looks you up and down. Master Gregory doesn't see peasants without payment first, he says. You pull out your small leather purse. Show him the coins inside. 3 silver pennies, a quarter of what you make in a good month. The servant nods, steps aside. Wait here. You wait in a small room. There are shelves with bottles, dried herbs hanging from the ceiling. A strange smell, not bad exactly, but unfamiliar, sweet and bitter at the same time. On the wall there's a chart, a drawing of a human body with lines connecting different parts. Labels in Latin you can't read. This is science, this is learning. Master Gregory studied at a university. He knows things. He has to know how to help you. The physician enters. He's older than you expected, maybe 50. Balding, well-dressed in a long robe that's actually clean. He has an air of authority, confidence. He looks at you with sharp eyes. Sit, he says. You sit on a wooden stool. He asks questions. When did the cough start? What have you eaten recently? Have you been near anyone sick? Have you experienced any strong emotions? Anger, fear, lust. You answer as best you can. No, you haven't been angry. You don't think you've been near anyone sick. You eat the same things you always eat. Bread, porridge, cheese, vegetables. Meat when you can afford it. He nods thoughtfully, strokes his beard. The humors, he says, they're imbalanced. That's clear. You don't fully understand what humors are. You've heard Father Benedict mention them in sermons. Blood phlegm, black bile, yellow bile. The 4 fluids that govern the body. When they're balanced, you're healthy. When they're not, you sicken. Master Gregory walks to a shelf, selects a glass flask. Clean, clear. He turns back to you, holds it out. I need to examine your urine, he says. Urinate into this. Your face flushes. But this is medicine. This is diagnosis. You take the flask, turn away for what little privacy exists in this room. You fill it. Your hands shake slightly as you hand it back. Master Gregory takes it, holds it up to the light from the window. He examines it carefully. The color, the clarity, how the light passes through it. He swirls it gently. Then you watch in disbelief, he brings it to his nose, smells it, carefully, professionally. He makes a small sound of consideration. And then he dips his finger into it. Your urine. He dips his finger into your urine, and he brings it to his lips. He tastes it. You stand there frozen, unable to process what you're seeing. Master Gregory's face doesn't change. This is normal to him. This is procedure. This is medicine. He tastes your urine, considers the flavor, makes a note on a piece of parchment with a quill. You can't make this up, but this is real. This is happening. This is how doctors diagnose illness in 1268. Master Gregory sets the flask aside finally and turns back to you. Too much blood, he announces. That's the problem. Your blood is excessive. It's causing the fever, the cough, the weakness. You nod. You don't know what else to do. The treatment is clear, he continues. We must remove the excess blood, restore the balance. Bloodletting. You've heard of this. Everyone has. It's what doctors do. When you're sick, they bleed you. Remove the bad humors. Balance the body. It makes sense in a way. If there's too much of something, remove it. But you also know people who've been bled. Some got better. Some got worse. Your uncle died 3 days after being bled for a fever. But maybe that was just his time. Maybe the bleeding wasn't the cause. I'll write you instructions, Master Gregory says. Take this to Master Roland, the barber on High Street. He'll take care of the bloodletting. Master Roland, the barber. Not a doctor, not a surgeon, a barber. The man who cuts hair and shaves beards also handles bloodletting because he has sharp tools, steady hands, experience with blades and blood. Why train two different people when one can do both? Efficiency. Master Gregory hands you a piece of parchment, instructions written in Latin. You can't read Latin, but Master Roland will. You pay. 3 silver pennies, gone. You leave the physician's house and walk down High Street looking for the barber's shop. It's easy to find. Outside, mounted on the walls, a pole, red and white stripes spiraling around it. You've seen these poles before, never thought much about them. But now you understand. The red is blood, the white is bandages. It's not decorative, it's a sign, a very literal sign. Haircuts available, veins optional. You push open the door. Inside the shop is cramped. One chair, a bench against the wall where 2 men are already waiting. Shelves holding razors, scissors, bowls, and cloths. And blood. You can see it. Dried blood on some of the towels, on the apron hanging from a hook. Master Roland is finishing with a customer. An older man is sitting in the chair, head tilted back, getting a shave. The razor moves carefully across his throat. The scrape of metal on skin is the only sound. The shave finishes. The man stands, pays a few coins, leaves. Master Roland looks at you. He's younger than you expected. Maybe 30, strong hands, calm expression. Next, he says. You sit in the chair. Hand him the parchment from Master Gregory. He reads it quickly, nods, sets it aside. Left arm, he says. You roll up your sleeve. Your arm looks pale in the dim light, the veins visible beneath the skin. Master Roland ties a leather strap around your upper arm. Tight. The pressure makes your hand tingle. Your veins swell. He selects a tool from the shelf. It's small, a blade mounted on a spring mechanism. A lancet, designed specifically for bloodletting. He doesn't ask if you're ready. He doesn't explain what's going to happen. He just positions the blade over the vein in your inner elbow. And he cuts. The pain is sharp, immediate, but brief. Blood wells up, flows down your arm. Master Roland positions a bowl beneath your elbow. The blood drips into it. Steady, rhythmic. You watch, because what else can you do? The bowl fills slowly. The blood looks darker than you expected. Almost black. Your head starts to feel light, dizzy. Master Roland notices. That's normal, he says, the imbalance leaving your body. But it's not the imbalance. You know that somewhere deep inside. It's blood loss. You're getting dizzy because you're literally being drained. But Master Roland interprets your symptoms as proof that the treatment is working. You feel bad, good. That means the excess is being removed. Medieval medical logic. The bowl continues to fill. You can feel yourself getting weaker. Your vision starts to blur at the edges. How much blood is too much? How does he know when to stop? Finally, after what feels like forever, Master Roland unties the strap. The flow of blood slows. He presses a cloth through the cut, wraps it tightly with a strip of linen, ties it off. Rest today, he instructs. No heavy work. Drink some wine if you have it, ale if you don't. You nod weakly. Try to stand. Your legs feel like water. Master Roland steadies you. Sit for a moment. Let the dizziness pass. You sit, watch as he pours your blood from the bowl into a larger container. He'll dispose of it later, or maybe sell it to farmers as fertilizer. You've heard that happens. Nothing goes to waste in medieval times. After a few minutes, you can stand. You pay Master Roland 2 pennies, less than the physician, but still significant. You walk out into the street, one hand pressed to your bandaged arm. The world tilts slightly. The walk back to Kent takes twice as long as usual. You have to stop and rest 3 times. By the time you reach home, you're exhausted. Sarah takes one look at you and helps you inside. What did they do? She asks, seeing the bandage. Bloodletting, you say, to remove the excess. She nods. She's seen this before. Her own father was bled twice before he died. But that was for a different illness. Dropsy, they called it. Swelling in the legs and belly. You lie down, close your eyes, the room spins. Sarah brings you water. You drink it, fall asleep almost immediately. You wake hours later. It's dark. The fever is still there. The cough hasn't improved. And you feel weaker now, much weaker. But you've been treated by educated professionals using established medical practice. You should feel better soon. Except you don't. Days pass. A week. You're not improving. The cough is deeper. The fever comes and goes but never fully breaks. You're so weak you can barely work the mill. Sarah is frightened now. You can see it clearly. Maybe you should go back, she says, to Master Gregory. You don't want to spend more money, but you're getting worse. So you go back. The walk to Canterbury is even harder this time. You have to stop and rest 6 times. Your chest hurts with every breath. Master Gregory examines you again, feels your pulse, studies your complexion, looks at your tongue. The imbalance persists, he says. The blood was part of it, but there's excess phlegm as well in your lungs. He prepares a mixture, ground herbs, powdered minerals, things you don't recognize. He mixes it with wine, hands you the cup. Drink this 3 times a day, morning, midday, evening. It will help purge the excess phlegm. The mixture tastes bitter, metallic. You force it down. You pay another 2 pennies. Your savings are disappearing. You take the remaining mixture home in a small flask. Follow the instructions 3 times a day. But you don't get better. You get worse. The bitterness in your mouth doesn't go away. Your stomach hurts now too. You're vomiting sometimes. The fever is constant. What you don't know, what no one knows, is that some of the ingredients in Master Gregory's mixture are toxic. Not healing, poisonous. But they're in the ancient medical texts. They've been used for centuries. Galen recommended them, Hippocrates before him. So they must work. You're fighting an infection with blood loss and poisoning. Of course you're getting worse. Sarah is crying now. At night when she thinks you're asleep. You can hear her. William is confused, frightened. He doesn't understand why his father can't get out of bed. Why you can't take him to the river like you promised. 2 weeks after your second visit to Master Gregory, something changes. The cough produces something new. Blood. Not just dark phlegm, actual red blood. Sarah sees it. Her face goes white. I'm getting Father Benedict, she says. The priest comes. He prays over you, gives you last rites. Just in case. You're 35 years old, your son is 8, and you might be dying from what started as a simple cough. This is medieval medicine. Confident, systematic, institutionally supported, and catastrophically wrong. But something strange happens that night. You have another dream, clearer than before. Alima is there, but she's not on the grasslands. She's in a room, dark, smoky. She's leaning over someone, a man, injured, bleeding from a wound in his side. She's cleaning the wound with something. You can smell it even in the dream. Sharp, alcohol. She's packing the wound with herbs, familiar herbs. Yarrow. You recognize it from the fields near your mill. She's speaking to someone, a younger woman, teaching her. Clean the wound first, Alima says. Always clean it. Infection kills more men than swords. Infection. That word, you don't know it in your language, but in the dream you understand it perfectly. The wound is dirty, has things in it that cause rot, cause fever, cause death. Clean it. Remove the dirt, the foreign matter. Alima looks up, directly at you again. Your medicine men are fools, she says. They bleed the strong and poison the weak. We know better. She holds up a bundle of herbs. Yarrow, willow bark, others you recognize but don't know the names of. These help, she says, not because of humors, because they work. We don't know why. We just know they do. The dream fades. You wake up. It's early morning. Gray light through the window. Your fever has broken. You're soaked in sweat, but you can breathe easier. The cough is still there, but different, looser, productive. You sit up slowly. Your head spins, but you stay conscious. Sarah is asleep in the corner. She's been sleeping down here with you instead of upstairs. You look at her, at William curled up near the fire. You're not dead yet. Maybe you'll survive this. Not because of Master Gregory's treatments, but despite them. Your body has been fighting 2 battles. One against the illness, one against the cure. And somehow, miraculously, your body is winning. Over the next week, you slowly improve. The cough lessens. The fever stays away. You're weak, devastatingly weak, but alive. Sarah cries when she realizes you're going to live. Real tears this time. Relief. William hugs you carefully. You're staying, Papa. I'm staying, you say. Father Benedict comes to visit. He's pleased. God has spared you, Thomas. You must give thanks. You do. You're grateful. But you also think about those dreams. About Alima, about cleaning wounds, about herbs that work not because of humors, but because they just work. You think about Master Gregory tasting your urine, about Master Roland draining your blood, about the bitter medicine that made you sicker. And you think about how medieval medicine is based on confidence. on authority, tienen, demo, on ancient texts, but not on whether it actually helps. You survived, but not because of the doctors. In spite of them, that thought stays with you, grows. You're not educated, you can't read, you don't know Latin or Greek or what Galen wrote, but you know what happened to you. And you're starting to suspect that sometimes, maybe often, the best medicine is no medicine at all. Just rest, water, time, let the body heal itself. But you can't say that. Can't question Master Gregory. He's educated, trained, respected. Who are you? Just a miller, just a peasant. So you keep quiet. Thank God for your survival. Go back to work as soon as you're strong enough. The mill runs again. The grain is ground. Life continues. But you're different now. You've seen the inside of medieval medicine. You've experienced it personally, and you've survived it. That's worth something, even if you're not sure what. The dreams of Alima continue, less frequent now, but they're still there. And you're starting to wonder if she's real, if somewhere across distance and maybe time, there's a woman who understands things differently, who has different answers, better answers. But that's impossible, isn't it? She's just a dream, a fever dream probably, your brain trying to make sense of the confusion, the pain, the near-death experience. Still, you remember her words. Your medicine men are fools, and you can't help but think she might be right. Part 3, Justice was a spectacle, 6,000 words. 4 more years pass. It's 1272. Now, you're 39. William is 12, old enough to help at the mill, learning the trade. Sarah is pregnant again. 5 months along, you're terrified you lost 2 pregnancies after Mary, but also hopeful. Life goes on. And today there's an execution in Canterbury. The whole town is going. It's expected. Lord Edmund has made it clear that attendance shows loyalty, support for the law, for order. So you go, you Sarah William. The walk to Canterbury in the early morning. The market square is already crowded when you arrive. Hundreds of people, more than you've ever seen in one place. A scaffold has been erected in the center, wooden platform, raised 4 feet off the ground, high enough that everyone can see. High enough that what happens up there will be visible from every corner of the square. People are bringing food, children, setting up positions for a good view, like they're waiting for a performance, because in a way they are. You find a spot near the edge of the crowd. Not too close. You've learned in your years here that being too close to these things means seeing details you can't unsee. William is excited. He's never seen an execution before. He's heard about them from other boys. He knows what's coming. Sarah stands beside you, one hand on her belly. She's seen executions before. Everyone has. Her face is neutral, resigned. A woman next to you is holding a baby, maybe 8 months old. She bounces it gently, murmuring soft sounds. Beyond her, a group of children are jostling for position, 10, 11 years old, laughing, excited. An old man leans against a post, chewing on dried meat. His expression says he's seen this dozens of times. This is normal. This is community. This is justice. The church bells ring 3 times. The crowd quiets slightly, attention shifting to the street leading from the jail. A procession emerges. First comes a priest, not Father Benedict, someone from the cathedral. Black robes, silver cross, reading from a prayer book, Latin words flowing. Behind him, 2 guards, armed with spears, though they don't really need them. The prisoner isn't fighting. And then the prisoner himself, a man, maybe 30, hard to tell. Medieval life ages people fast. His hands are bound in front of him. His clothes are filthy. His face is bruised. One eye is swollen shut. But he's walking, not being dragged, walking with what might be dignity or might be shock. You don't know what he did. The announcement said theft, repeated offenses, stealing from Lord Edmund's storehouse. Bread. The man stole bread, and now he's going to die for it. The guards lead him to the scaffold, up the wooden steps, onto the platform. The crowd presses closer. People crane their necks. Children are lifted onto shoulders for a better view. William tugs at your sleeve. Papa, I can't see. You lift him. He's getting heavy, but you hold him so he can watch. Because this is educational. This is teaching him about consequences, about law, about what happens when you break the rules. The prisoner stands at the center of the platform. The priest continues praying. The prisoner's lips move too. He's praying or confessing or saying goodbye. One of the guards unrolls a scroll, reads the charges, the verdict, the sentence. For the crime of theft repeated 3 times. For stealing food from Lord Edmund's storehouse. The penalty is death by hanging. The crowd murmurs. Some nod. Some make sounds of agreement. This is justice. This is the law. This is how order is maintained. No one questions whether the trial was fair. Whether stealing bread to feed your family should result in death. Whether there might be another way. The system has spoken. The verdict is final. A noose is lowered from a wooden beam extending from the scaffold. Thick rope. The loop hangs at head height. The executioner steps forward. You hadn't noticed him before. He's a big man, heavily built. His face is covered with a hood. Everyone knows who he is anyway. Hugh the hangman. He's been the executioner for 20 years. He positions the prisoner beneath the noose, slips it over his head, tightens it around his neck. The prisoner is shaking. You can see it clearly from here, his whole body trembling. The priest finishes his prayer, steps back, makes the sign of the cross. The crowd goes silent. Hugh pulls a lever. The floor beneath the prisoner drops away. A trap door in the platform. The prisoner falls. The rope catches him. And here's what they don't tell you about hangings in 1272. Here's what makes it worse than you imagined. The drop is too short. It hasn't been calculated properly. The neck doesn't break. The prisoner dangles, choking, strangling slowly. His legs kick. His body convulses. His face turns red, then purple. It takes minutes. Long, horrible minutes. William is watching. You feel him tense in your arms, but he doesn't look away. None of the children do. This is the lesson. This is what they need to see. Break the law and this happens to you. The crowd watches, silently at first. Then someone coughs. Someone else shifts their weight. The baby starts to fuss and the mother bounces it harder. But no one leaves. This is justice. This is necessary. This is the warning everyone needs to see. Finally, mercifully, the prisoner stops moving. His body hangs limp, swaying slightly in the breeze. Hugh checks for a pulse, confirms death. And then the crowd reacts. Not with horror, not with grief, with approval. Some people clap. Not enthusiastically, just acknowledgement, like applauding at the end of a sermon. Others nod to each other, murmur comments. Should have been quicker, someone says. Hugh's getting old, another voice adds. Didn't calculate the drop right. Still justice is served. William looks up at you. Papa, is he dead now? Yes, you say. Will he go to heaven? I don't know. That's for God to decide. William seems to accept this. You set him down. Around you, people are dispersing, going about their day. The market resumes normal activity. The body still hangs on the scaffold. It'll stay there for a while, days maybe, as a reminder. As a warning, eventually it'll be cut down, buried somewhere outside town in unconsecrated ground. Not in the churchyard, criminals don't get that honor. But for now, it's part of the landscape. You turn to leave. Need to get away from this. Process what you've seen. But Sarah touches your arm, points. Thomas, look, something else is happening. There's another crowd gathering near the church. Smaller, but growing. Curious, you walk over, and you see something that makes you stop in your tracks. In the center of the crowd is a pig. Just a pig. Brown, large, grunting. But it's being led by a rope. Guards are holding it. And there's a priest. And a man in official robes, a magistrate from the cathedral court. You push closer, try to understand. The magistrate is reading from a document. Formal language, legal terminology. And slowly, impossibly, you realize what's happening. The pig is being accused of a crime. 3 days pass. The magistrate reads, this animal did enter the home of John Miller. Did attack and kill his son Edmund, aged 2 years. The child died of wounds to the throat and chest. The crowd murmurs. You know John Miller. Not well, he lives in a village near here. But you know of him. Everyone heard about his son's death. A pig got into their house, attacked the child while the mother was fetching water. By the time she returned, the boy was dead. Horrible, tragic. But now they're, trying the pig. An old woman next to you sees your confusion. Has to answer for what it did, she says. Killed a Christian child. Can't just ignore that. But it's a pig, you say. She looks at you like you're slow. Doesn't matter. It killed. It has to be judged. The magistrate continues. Evidence is presented. Witnesses testify. They saw the pig in the house. Saw the blood, the child's body. The pig grunts, unaware of what's happening. You can't make this up. But this is real. This is happening. Animal trials are common across Christendom. Documented, recorded, taken completely seriously. When an animal causes harm, especially death, it's held accountable. Legally accountable. The pig is arrested, given a trial, with legal representation. You don't see the lawyer here. Maybe the pig couldn't afford one. Or maybe the guilt is so obvious that no defense is possible. The magistrate reads the verdict. Guilty of the murder of Edmund Miller. The sentence is death. The crowd nods. This is proper. This is right. Justice must be served. The moral order must be restored. But here's where it gets even stranger. Guards lead the pig toward the scaffold. The same scaffold where the man was hanged. The pig resists slightly, not understanding, just uncomfortable with being pulled along. They get it up onto the platform. You're not sure how. It takes 4 men. And then Hugh the hangman emerges again. He looks tired. This is his second execution today. The pig is positioned, a rope is placed around its neck. But before that happens, something else occurs. Another man climbs onto the platform. He's carrying cloth, a tunic, human clothing. He dresses the pig, puts human clothes on the pig. A tunic over its body, it looks absurd, ridiculous. The pig squirms, doesn't understand. But the crowd watches seriously. This is important. The pig killed a human, so it must be treated as human for its execution. The moral symmetry must be maintained. Once the pig is dressed, the rope is secured, and with the same ceremony used for the human execution, the pig is hanged. The pig dies quickly. Its neck breaks. The body goes limp almost immediately. The crowd watches, satisfied. Justice has been served. For both crimes, the stolen bread, the dead child. Order is restored. William is staring. He looks confused. Papa, why did they kill the pig? Because it killed a child, you say. But it's a pig. Pigs don't understand. No, you agree. But we do, and we need to know that when something bad happens, there are consequences, even if it's an animal. William thinks about this. You can see him trying to work it out in his head. You're not sure you understand it either. Not really. But you know why it happens. You've lived here long enough. You've absorbed the logic. Medieval people believed the world is governed by moral rules. Universal rules. Rules that apply to everything. Humans, animals, even objects in some cases. If something causes harm, it must be judged, must be punished. Otherwise, chaos spreads. The moral fabric frays. So they hold trials. They assign blame. They execute pigs, not because they think the pig understood, but because the humans need the ritual, the ceremony, the formal acknowledgement that justice exists, that someone is in control. Even when nothing is really in control, the pig's body is cut down, dragged away. The crowd disperses. Back to the market, back to normal life. You, Sarah, and William walk home in silence. It's late afternoon by the time you reach Kent. The sun is low, the shadows long. You're exhausted, emotionally drained. You've watched a man and a pig executed on the same day, both with ceremony, both with crowd approval, and no one seemed traumatized. The children weren't crying, the adults weren't shaken. It was just another day. That night, William asked more questions. If a dog bites someone, will they hang the dog? Maybe, you say, if the bite is bad enough. What about a horse? If a horse kicks someone, could happen. He's quiet for a moment. Then, Papa, could they hang a person for stepping on an ant? You almost smile. No, ants aren't. They're too small. They don't count the same way. Where's the line? That's the question, isn't it? Where is the line? What size must an animal be before it becomes subject to human justice? You don't have an answer. Go to sleep, William, you say. Tomorrow there's work. He does, eventually. You and Sarah lie in bed. She's quiet. Her hand rests on her pregnant belly. Do you think it's right? She asks finally. Hanging the pig? You consider. I think it makes people feel better, safer, like there's order. But is it right? I don't know. She's quiet again. Then the man who stole bread. He had a family, 3 children. I heard people talking. His wife died last year. He was trying to feed his children. I know. They'll starve now, with their father dead. Probably. That's not justice, Sarah says. You don't answer. Because she's right. But what can you do? You're a miller, not a lord, not a judge. You survive. You keep your head down. You don't question the system. That's how you stay alive. But Sarah's words echo in your head. That's not justice. And you think about Alima again, your strange dreams of her. In those dreams, justice looks different, harsher in some ways, more practical in others. Someone steals food on the steps. They might be beaten, might be cast out. But usually the tribe addresses the root problem. Why did they steal? Were they hungry? Was their family struggling? Fix the problem. Not to just punish the symptom. But that's just dreams. Just your imagination trying to make sense of a world that often doesn't make sense. You fall asleep and you dream of Alima again. This time she's in a large tent. A gur, though you don't know that word. There are people gathered, men and women. A dispute is being settled. 2 men are arguing. One's horse injured the other's, kicked it, broke its leg. The injured horse had to be killed. In England, the horse that kicked would be put on trial, maybe killed itself. But here Alima is mediating. She's older in this dream, maybe 40, gray in her hair, lines around her eyes. The horse is a tool, she says. It doesn't understand blame. We're not animals. We understand cause and effect, purpose, intention. She turns to the man whose horse did the kicking. Your horse was poorly trained. That's your responsibility. You'll compensate him. 3 sheep. Fair. The man nods, reluctantly, but he nods. The other man accepts. The dispute is over. No trial, no execution, just practical resolution. Alima looks up. sees you watching from wherever you are in this dream. Justice, she says, is what keeps people alive, not what makes them feel powerful. The dream shifts. Now you're somewhere else. Still with Alima, but she's young again, maybe 25. She's standing over a dead animal, a wolf, killed by men in her tribe. The wolf killed our sheep, one man says. Should we try it? Punish it. Alima laughs, actually laughs. It's a wolf. It did what wolves do. We're not monks in Europe trying to make sense of a senseless world by pretending animals understand sin. She kicks the dead wolf. We killed it because it threatened our livelihood. That's practical, not moral. The man looks confused, but the priests, Alima interrupts, don't survive winters on the steppe. We do. And we survive by being practical, not philosophical. She walks away. The men follow her. You watch, understanding something. In Europe, justice is about order, about maintaining the feeling that someone is in control, that the universe makes sense, that bad things happen for reasons and those reasons can be addressed. On the steppes, justice is about survival, about solving problems, about keeping the tribe functional. Different philosophies, different worlds. Both groups think they're right. Both groups think the other is insane. You wake up. It's early morning. Gray light through the window. Sarah is still asleep. William too. You lie there thinking about what you've seen, what you've dreamed. And you realize something. Normal is just whatever you're born into, whatever you're taught to accept. In England, executing pigs makes sense because moral order must be maintained. On the steppes, it would be absurd because practicality matters more than symbolism. Neither is objectively right or wrong. They're just different. Different adaptations to different circumstances. But here's what bothers you. The man who stole bread is dead. His children will starve. That's not practical. That doesn't keep society functional. It just maintains power, reminds everyone who's in control. Is that justice or is that something else? You don't have answers. You're just a miller, just a man trying to survive in 1272. But you're starting to ask questions, starting to see cracks in the systems you've always accepted. And once you start seeing them, you can't stop. You get up, start your day. The mill runs, the grain is ground. Life continues, but you're different now. You've seen too much, thought too much. And those dreams of Alima won't stop. They're getting stronger, more frequent, more real. Like she's trying to tell you something, teach you something about survival, about justice, about different ways of being human. But why? Why are you dreaming about a woman you've never met, a woman who might not even exist? You don't know. But you're starting to think that somehow impossibly you and Alima are connected, across distance, across culture, maybe across time itself. Two people living in completely different worlds, learning completely different lessons, but somehow sharing them, teaching each other, showing each other that normal is just an illusion, that humanity adapts to anything, that survival takes many forms, and that maybe the world doesn't have to be the way it is. Maybe there are other options, other possibilities. You just have to be brave enough to see them. To be continued in parts 4, 5, and 6. Due to length constraints, I need to continue the remaining 12,000 words in the next response. Shall I continue with part 4, The Mongol Way? The complete story echoes of the medieval world continued part 4, The Mongol Way. 6,000 words, the dreams become something more. It's been 2 years since the executions. You're 41 now. William is 14, almost a man. Sarah gave birth to a daughter, Margaret, healthy, 2 years old now. A blessing. The mill runs. Seasons turn. Life continues in its medieval rhythm. But the dreams of Alima are no longer just dreams. They're memories. Somehow impossibly you're experiencing her life. Not as an observer. As her. You don't understand it. Can't explain it. But when you sleep, you're not Thomas the Miller anymore. You're Alima, living on the Mongolian steppes in the year 1270. And tonight the dream is clearer than ever. You are Alima, 28 years old, born in the year of the horse, daughter of a minor clan leader who died when you were 12. You stand on the steppe, endless grassland stretching in every direction. The wind is constant, always moving, always cold even in summer. Your hair is dark, long braided tightly. Your clothes are practical wool pants, leather, boots, a deal, a long robe designed for riding. Not the restrictive dresses of European women. Not the layers that make movement impossible. Here on the steppe, movement is survival. You're at a yam station, a relay post in the vast communication network that holds the Mongol Empire together. This is your station. You manage it. Not your husband's station, not your father's, yours. Because in the Mongol world, women can own property, can manage businesses, can hold authority, not as exceptions, as normal. The station is simple. A large gyr the round tent you live in, a smaller gyr for supplies, corrals for horses, storage for food and equipment. Your responsibility is clear. Keep fresh horses ready. Feed the riders who come through. Pass messages up the chain. Keep the system running. The yam is the nervous system of the empire. Information flows through it faster than any army can march. Orders from the Great Khan reach distant provinces in days instead of months. And you, a woman, are one of the nodes that makes it work. A rider approaches. You see the dust before you see the horse. You're trained to notice these things. You walk out to meet him. He dismounts before the horse has fully stopped. He's exhausted, covered in dust, but his eyes are alert. Message for the Khan, he says, handing you a sealed tube. Leather, heavy wax seal. You take it, check the seal. Unbroken. Good. How far have you come? 2 stations. Started at dawn yesterday. You nod. He's covered maybe 150 miles in 30 hours. Impossible on one horse. But the yam makes it possible. Fresh horse every 20 miles. Fresh rider every 100. Speed. Constant speed. Food inside, you say? Fresh horse is ready. The gray mare. She's fast. He nods, stumbles toward your gear. You can see how exhausted he is, but he'll eat quickly. Drink. Mount the fresh horse. Continue. Because the message can't stop. Can't slow. You examine the seal more carefully. It's from a general in the West. Possibly about the campaigns in Persia. Or problems with local governors. You don't open it. That's not your role. But you read the markings, the urgency indicators, the routing codes. This needs to go fast. Priority 1. You whistle. Sharp. Your son, Timur, 15 years old, emerges from the supply jar. Prepare the fastest horse, you say. Priority message. He runs to the corral. Your son learned to ride before he could walk properly. Learned to care for horses before he learned to write. Now he's learning the YAM system. Learning how information flows. Learning how to be valuable to the empire. The exhausted rider emerges from your gear. He's eaten, drunk. His face is fresher. Timur brings the gray mare. Fresh, strong, eager to run. The rider mounts. You hand him the message tube. Next station is 30 miles northeast, you say. Follow the marker stones. There's a river crossing at the midpoint. Shallow this time of year. He nods, kicks the horse. She leaps forward. Within seconds, there's specks on the horizon, then gone. You turn back to your station. There's work to do, always work. The exhausted horse needs care. Water, food, rest. It'll recover in a few days. Then back into rotation. You're good at this. Managing resources, managing people, making decisions. Your late husband used to say you were better at it than he was. He died 5 years ago. Fell from a horse during a hunt. Broke his neck. You mourned. Of course you mourned. But you also continued. Because stopping wasn't an option. The station was yours to manage before he died. It remained yours after. Your clan leader, a distant cousin, tried to assign you a new husband. Tried to give your station to a man. You refused. Stood before the clan assembly. Stated your case. Your station runs efficiently. Messages never delayed. Horses well maintained. You speak 3 languages, Mongolian, Chinese, and Persian. You can read. You can negotiate with traveling merchants. Why replace you with someone less capable just because you are a woman? The assembly agreed. Your station remained yours. This is the Mongol way. Practical. Efficient. If you can do the work, you do the work. Gender matters less than competence. Evening comes. The sun sets red across the endless grass. Beautiful. Harsh. You sit outside your gear repairing tack. Leather work. Your hands are rough, calloused, strong. Timur sits nearby practicing with a bow, shooting at a target 50 paces away. He hits it most of the time. He's good. Will be better. Your daughter Nergi, 12 years old, is inside preparing food. She's learning to manage the household, learning to negotiate with traders, learning everything you know. She'll inherit this station someday, if she wants it, if she's capable. Or maybe Timur will, whoever proves themselves more capable. That's how it works here. Merit, ability, survival, not birth order, not gender. What can you do? That's what matters. You think about the European world. You've heard stories. Merchants who've traveled west, monks, ambassadors. They describe a world where women are hidden, silent, property of their fathers, then their husbands. Where women can't own land, can't manage businesses, can't speak in public assemblies. It sounds insane to you, wasteful. Why handicap half your population? But they have their reasons, their religion, their traditions, their fears, just like you have yours. Different worlds, different rules, different versions of normal. 3 days later, another rider arrives. This one is different. She's a woman, maybe 35. Tough, scarred, riding hard. She dismounts, hands you a message. But this one isn't sealed for the Khan. It's for you, marked with your name. You open it, read quickly. It's from Khatun Sorkokhtani, the widow of Tolui, mother of Monkey Khan, one of the most powerful women in the empire. She's requesting information about trade routes in your region, about Persian merchants, about supplies. She's managing logistics for a military campaign, and she needs data from you because you're positioned to know, because you're capable of providing it. You read the message twice, then look at the female writer. You'll wait for my response. She nods. I have time. 3 days, Khatun Sorkokhtani said. I can rest here. You gestured to your ger. Food, rest. I'll prepare the information. She goes inside. You call Nergi. I need the trade records. Last 6 months. All merchants who passed through, what they carried, where they were headed. Nergi nods, runs to fetch the documents. You keep meticulous records. Every rider, every merchant, every piece of information that passes through your station. Because information is power. Information is survival. That night you work by lamplight, compiling data, writing your response in clear, efficient Mongolian script. You learn to write from a Chinese scribe who passed through years ago. He taught you in exchange for food and shelter during a harsh winter. Knowledge is valuable. You collect it, store it, use it. Your response to Khatun Sorkokhtani is detailed, thorough. You include not just what she asked for, but additional observations, patterns you've noticed, potential problems, opportunities. This is how you survive in the Mongol world, by being useful, by being smart, by being indispensable. 3 days later, the female writer leaves with your response. 2 weeks after that, you receive another message, a small pouch of silver coins, payment for your information, and a note. Your observations were valuable. You served the empire well, signed by Khatun Sorkokhtani herself. You feel pride, not just at the payment, though that helps, but at the recognition. You matter. Your work matters. Your mind matters. This is what the Mongol world offers women. Not gentle treatment, not protection, not romance, but respect, opportunity, the chance to prove yourself. And if you prove yourself, you rise. Gender doesn't disappear as an issue. There are still expectations, still limitations, still men who doubt, but those men are practical. If you demonstrate competence, they adapt, they accept, they move on. Because the steppe doesn't care about prejudice. The steppe cares about survival. And women who can help the tribe survive are valuable. Simple as that. The memory shifts. You're still Alima, but it's 5 years earlier. You're 23. The Yam station is yours, but you're still learning, still proving yourself. A crisis arrives. A group of merchants appears at your station. 7 men. They're sick, fever, coughing, weak. They need shelter, food, help. But you recognize the symptoms. You've seen this before. Plague. Not the great plague that will sweep through decades later, but something similar, something that spreads. If you let them stay, the sickness could spread to your family, to your tribe, to the riders who pass through. It could kill dozens, hundreds. But if you turn them away, they'll die. Certainly, they're too weak to make it to the next settlement. You stand at the entrance to your ger. The merchants wait outside, desperate, dying. Your husband is beside you. What do when do you think? Calculate, weigh outcomes. 7 lives versus dozens, maybe more. This is the choice, the impossible choice, the kind that defines you. We can't let them in, you say. The risk is too great. They'll die, your husband says. Yes. We're killing them by refusing help. No, you say. The sickness is killing them. We're protecting everyone else. Your husband looks at you. He's troubled, but he nods. He trusts your judgment. You turn to the merchants. I'm sorry, I can't shelter you. The sickness you carry is too dangerous. The lead merchant, a Persian middle-aged, stares at you. We'll die. I know. You would let us die out here. I would let 7 die rather than 70. His face twists with anger, with betrayal. We're human. We deserve compassion. Compassion is a luxury, you say. Survival is necessary. He curses you. In Persian, words you partially understand, calling you heartless, calling you worse. You stand firm. The merchants leave, stumbling, weak. They won't make it far. 2 days later, a rider from the next station reports finding 7 bodies, dead, a day's ride from your station. The rider asks if you saw them. If you knew, yes, you say. You didn't help them. No. The rider looks at you strangely, but he doesn't argue. He understands the calculus, the necessity. That night you can't sleep. You keep seeing the Persian merchant's face, the betrayal, the anger. You made the right choice. You know you did. The practical choice. The choice that kept your family safe, kept the YAM system functioning, kept the plague from spreading. But right doesn't mean easy, doesn't mean painless. You carry that decision. Add it to all the others, all the hard choices that survival requires. This is leadership. This is responsibility. This is the price of managing life and death on the step. The memory shifts again. You're older now, 30. 3 years ago, Timur is 12. Learning, growing. A dispute arises in your clan. 2 families arguing over a horse. Each claims ownership. The horse is valuable, bred from strong lines, worth significant trade goods. The argument escalates. Violence threatens. The clan leader, your cousin, asks you to mediate because you're known for fairness, for practicality, for finding solutions. You examine the evidence. Both families have legitimate claims. The horse's lineage is complicated. It was traded multiple times. Records are unclear. In a European court, this would become a legal nightmare. Witnesses called, documents examined, months of argument. On the step, you have 3 days to solve it before the families start killing each other. You think, consider, find a solution that's not fair. Fairness is impossible but functional. You assign ownership to the family that currently has the best breeding mare, because breeding the horse will benefit the clan, will produce strong offspring, will increase collective wealth. The other family receives compensation. 3 sheep, 1 bolt of Chinese silk, not equal to the horse's value, but enough to save face, enough to accept. Both families grumble. Neither is happy, but neither resorts to violence. That's success, not satisfaction, success. The clan leader nods his approval. You think like a man, he says. You don't take it as a compliment, but you don't argue, because what he means is you think practically, strategically, without emotion clouding judgment. He's wrong, of course. You feel emotion. Feel it deeply. The grief when your husband died, the fear when your children are sick, the doubt when you make hard choices. But you don't let emotion rule you. Can't afford to. The step demands strength, demands resilience, demands the ability to make hard choices and live with them. So you do. You wake up. You're Thomas again. Back in your body, in your bed, in Kent. Sarah is asleep beside you. Margaret is in her cradle nearby. William is in the next room. Your world, your life, your normal. But you're shaking because you didn't just dream about Alima. You were Alima, felt what she felt, thought what she thought, made her choices. And now you understand something you couldn't before. The Mongol world and the European world are mirrors, distorted mirrors, each reflecting the other's opposite. In Europe, women are protected, sheltered, kept safe, and in that safety they're imprisoned, made voiceless, made powerless. In Mongolia, women are free, capable, powerful, and in that freedom they're exposed to every harsh reality, every hard choice, every burden. Neither is better, neither is worse. Both are survival strategies. Different answers to different environments, but both require women to adapt, to normalize the abnormal, to accept what they are given and make the best of it. In Europe, women adapt to silence, to obedience, to finding power in indirect ways, through husbands, through sons, through manipulation instead of direct authority. In Mongolia, women adapt to harshness, to responsibility, to making choices that would break softer people. Different prisons, different freedoms, different prices. You lie there processing this, understanding this, and you think about Sarah, strong Sarah, who manages your household, who survived 3 pregnancies, who buries children and keeps going. She's as strong as Alima, just strong in different ways, required to be strong in different ways. The world shapes us, and we shape ourselves to fit the world. That's adaptation. That's survival. That's humanity. Morning comes. You go to the mill. William works beside you, learning. growing, almost ready to take over someday. You watch him work. Think about Timur, same age, learning different skills, preparing for a different life, but both learning the same lesson. Survival requires adaptation, requires accepting your world's rules, requires becoming what your world needs you to be, even when it's hard, even when it costs you, even when you wish things were different. You can't change the world you were born into. You can only learn to live in it. That's the lesson. From both lives, both worlds. And it's a lesson that never changes, across time, across distance, across culture. We adapt, we survive, we normalize the abnormal, and we call it life. That night, you dream of Alima one final time. She's older, maybe 50, gray in her hair, lines deep around her eyes. She's sitting outside her ger, alone, the steps stretching forever around her. Timur is gone, managing his own yam station 200 miles away. Nergi is married, living with her husband's clan. Alima is alone, but not lonely. She chose this, chose independence, chose to keep working, keep managing, keep being useful. She looks toward you, directly at you, like she knows you're there. Thomas, she says, and somehow you hear her, across the centuries, across the impossible distance. You're learning. You can't speak in the dream, but she hears you anyway. Our worlds are different, she continues, but humans are the same. We adapt, we survive. We find ways to live with what we're given. She pauses, looks at the sunset, red and gold across the grass. Your people hide death. We live with it openly. Your people protect women. We empower them but expose them. Different choices, different costs. She looks back at you. But the lesson is the same. Normal is just what we're taught to accept. And we can accept anything, if we're forced to. That's both inspiring and terrifying, she says, because it means humanity can survive unthinkable circumstances. But it also means we tolerate unthinkable cruelty. The question isn't what we can survive. We can survive anything. The question is, what should we refuse to tolerate? When do we say this is wrong, this must change, even if change is dangerous? She stands, walks toward you. Her face is close now. You can see every line, every scar, every year of hard living. In your time, Thomas, 500 years from now, what are you tolerating? What are you normalizing? What are future generations going to look back on and ask, how did they live like that? You don't have an answer. She smiles, Ted, at Shimon, knowing. Neither do I, that's the problem. We never see it, not while we're living it. But maybe if we share our stories, if we learn from each other across time and distance, maybe we can start to see, start to question, start to refuse. She reaches out, touches your face, you feel it, actually feel it, warm, real. Thank you for listening to my stories, she says. Now go tell it. Tell people that normal is a lie, that humanity adapts to anything, and that adaptation is both our greatest strength and our greatest danger. Tell them to question, always question, even when everyone else accepts. Especially then. The dream ends. You wake up. It's dawn, the first light coming through the window. You know somehow that you won't dream of Alima again. That part of your journey is over. But the lessons remain. Burned into your mind, your heart, your understanding of what it means to be human. You've lived two lives, two impossible lives, and learned from both. Now comes the question, what do you do with that knowledge? How do you live in medieval Kent with the understanding that the world could be different? That the rules you've always accepted aren't universal, aren't necessary, are just one option among many. You don't have answers yet, but you're awake now, truly awake, seeing your world with new eyes, and you can't go back, can't unsee what you've seen, can't unlearn what you've learned. You're changed, permanently, irrevocably, and somehow you know this is just the beginning. Boom. Part 5, The Echoes, 5,000 words, 10 more years pass. You're 51 now. The year is 1282. William runs the mill now. He's 24, married, has a son of his own. The family continues. Margaret is 12, smart, curious, asks questions that make you uncomfortable because you don't have answers. Sarah is still alive. 48, gray in her hair, tired, but alive. That's worth celebrating in medieval times. Most women don't make it to 50. You're sitting outside your house. Evening. The sun setting over Kent. The familiar landscape. The church, the graveyard. The mill. home. But you see it differently now, have seen it differently ever since the dream stopped. The bones in the graveyard don't disturb you. But you understand now that they're a choice, a cultural choice, not inevitable, not necessary. The Mongols managed death differently, exposed bodies to the elements, sky burial, return the body to nature quickly, efficiently, different choice, same reality. Death is universal. How we handle it is cultural. Father Benedict walks by, older now, moving slowly. He nods to you. Thomas. Father, he pauses, looks at you carefully. You've been different these past years. Thoughtful, distant. You shrug, getting older, seeing things differently, questioning things. You meet his eyes, he's testing you. Questioning is dangerous. Could be heresy, could be rebellion. Not questioning God, you say carefully. Questioning how we do things, why we do them. Father Benedict sits down beside you. Uninvited, but you don't mind. Tell me, he says, so you do. Carefully. You talk about dreams you had, about a woman in a far land, about different ways of living, different rules, different versions of normal. You don't claim the dreams were real, don't claim divine revelation, just dreams, imagination, curiosity. But Father Benedict listens, really listens. When you finish, he's quiet for a long moment. You know what you're describing, he finally says, is dangerous. I know. If people start questioning why things are the way they are, where does it end? What happens to order, to stability? I don't know, you admit. Maybe some things are better left unquestioned, Father Benedict says. Maybe normal exists for a reason. Maybe accepting the world as it is brings peace. Maybe you agree. Or maybe some normal things should be questioned, should be changed. Like what? You think carefully. Choose your words. Like hanging a man for stealing bread to feed his children. Like bleeding sick people until they're weaker. Like burning herbs and calling it medicine when it does nothing. Like, you stop. You're going too far. Father Benedict looks at you. His face is unreadable. You're describing the world, Thomas. The world as it is. As it's always been. As God ordained it. Is it God, you ask? Or is it just us, just humans making choices and calling them inevitable? Father Benedict stands, brushes off his robe. Be careful, Thomas. These thoughts, they can lead to dark places. To doubt, to despair, to heresy. Or to change, you say quietly. He looks at you, Samad, worried. Change is another word for chaos, and chaos is the enemy of survival. He walks away, leaves you sitting there. And you know he's partly right. Change is dangerous. Questioning is dangerous. In a world as precarious as medieval times, stability matters. Order matters. Accepting things as they are might be necessary for survival, but there's something in you now, something Alima taught you, that refuses to accept everything, that insists some things can be better, should be better, must be better. You just don't know which things or how to change them without destroying everything. Margaret sits with you the next day. She's been listening to your conversations, thinking. Papa, she says, tell me about the woman in your dreams, the one from far away. You hesitate. Should you tell her she's 12, old enough to understand, but young enough that these ideas might shape her, change her? Is that fair? Is that safe? But she's asking, and she deserves answers. So you tell her about Alima, about the steps, about a world where women manage businesses and make decisions and aren't hidden away. Margaret listens, her eyes wide, absorbing everything. Could I do that? She asks when you finish. Could I manage something? Make decisions? Your heart breaks a little, because the answer is no. Not here, not in Kent, not in 1282 England. The world here is different, you say carefully. Women have different roles, different rules. But why? Because that's how it is, how it's always been. But it doesn't have to be, Margaret says. You said the Mongol woman did it, so it's possible. In Mongolia, not here. Why not here? You don't have a good answer, only the truth. Because this is how we've always done things. Because men have power and don't want to share it. Because change is frightening. Because normal is normal until it isn't. Maybe someday, you say, maybe in the future, things might be different. How far in the future? You think about that. How long before women in England have the rights and opportunities of Mongol women? How many centuries? I don't know, you admit. Maybe, maybe never. Maybe it requires a completely different world, different circumstances, different pressures. Margaret is quiet, thinking. Then, Papa, are we wrong the way we live? Not wrong, you say, just one way, one choice. There are other ways, other choices. But some ways are better than others, she insists. Aren't they? You want to say yes, want to tell her that freedom is better than restriction, that empowering half the population is better than silencing them. But you've lived both lives, seen both worlds, and you know it's not that simple. Better for what you ask, Alima's world gives women power, but it also gives them responsibility. Hard choices, dangerous burdens. European women are protected, safe, but also powerless, voiceless. I'd rather have power and danger than safety and silence, Margaret says immediately. You smile. You're young, you think that now, but ask the women who've lived through it. Ask Alima. She'd tell you the price is high, sometimes unbearably high. Still better than being property, Margaret says, and you can't argue with that. That night you have a different kind of dream, not of the past, of the future. You see a world centuries from now, your world. England, but transformed. The houses are different, taller, made of strange materials. Brick, glass, metal. The streets are paved, clean, no mud, no animal waste. People dress in clothes you don't recognize. Women wearing pants, moving freely, speaking loudly, working alongside men. You see a woman standing at a podium, speaking to a crowd, hundreds of people, men and women, listening to her, taking her seriously. You see women in buildings filled with books, learning, reading, writing, teaching. You see a world where the bones are gone from the churchyards, where graves are neat and far from daily life, where death is hidden, sanitized, removed from children's eyes. You see a world where medicine is different, doctors using strange tools, clean tools, understanding things medieval physicians never imagined, saving lives that would have been lost in your time. You see a world where justice is private, behind closed doors, no public executions, no spectacles. Different, completely different. Better in some ways, maybe worse in others, but different. And you understand this is the future, this is what's coming, not in your lifetime, not in William's, not in Margaret's, but eventually. The world changes, slowly, painfully, but it changes. The dream shifts. Now you see the darker parts. You see people living in massive cities, crowded, disconnected, lonely despite being surrounded by millions. You see people staring at glowing screens, alone, together but separate. You see a world where death is so hidden that people don't know how to mourn, where grief is considered shameful, where children reach adulthood without understanding mortality. You see a world where women have opportunities but also impossible expectations, where they're told that they can do anything but judged harshly when they try, where the old restrictions are gone but new ones have taken their place. You see justice that's private but also opaque, where the poor are punished and the rich escape, where trials happen but many people feel justice isn't served. You see medicine that's advanced but also expensive, where only the wealthy get the best care, where people live longer but often in pain, in isolation, in nursing homes that feel like prisons. Different problems, different cruelties, different blind spots. The future isn't perfect, it's just different. Humanity hasn't solved its problems, it's just changed them, traded one set of horrors for another, called it progress. You wake up gasping. Sarah is beside you. She touches your arm. Thomas, are you all right? I'm fine, you lie, just a dream. But you're not fine, because you've seen it now. The full cycle, past, present, future. All connected, all part of the same pattern. Humanity adapts, normalizes, survives, repeats. We think we're making progress, getting better, becoming more civilized, but we're just changing the rules, finding new things to normalize, new horrors to accept. The question Alima asked echoes in your mind. What are you tolerating now that future generations will find unthinkable? And now you understand it's not just your time, it's every time, forever, always. Each generation has its blind spots, its normalized cruelties, its accepted horrors. Medieval people accepted death in the streets. Future people will accept. What loneliness, disconnection, environmental destruction, technologies that harm them while promising help. Every age thinks it's enlightened. Every age is wrong. Demo. The next morning you walk to the graveyard, stand among the bones and crosses. William finds you there. Father, are you all right? You turn to him, your son, 24 years old, strong, capable, ready to take over completely. William, you say, I need to tell you something about how we live, about what's normal, about what we accept without thinking. He listens as you talk about death and medicine and justice, about different worlds and different rules, about adaptation and normalization, and the human capacity to survive anything by learning to call it acceptable. When you finish, William is quiet. Then are you saying we're wrong, that everything we do is wrong? No, you say, I'm saying we're human. We're doing the best we can with what we know. But we should always question, always wonder, always ask, is this necessary? Is this the only way? Could things be better? But how do we know what's better? We don't. You admit. Not always. Sometimes we try to improve things and make them worse. Sometimes change is more dangerous than staying the same. Then what's the point? Why question at all? Because you say slowly working it out as you speak, if we never question, nothing ever improves. If we just accept normal as inevitable, we stay stuck. Maybe some things are necessary. Maybe some things can't be changed. But some things are just choices we made and forgot we made. And those things, those we can change, if we're brave enough. William nods. He doesn't fully understand. How could he? He hasn't lived two lives, hasn't seen two worlds, hasn't dreamed of Alima. But he's thinking, and that's enough. You live another year. In 1283, you fall ill again. A different illness this time. Pain in your belly, growing and spreading. You know what this is. You've seen it before. People waste away. Take months to die. Nothing helps. This time you don't go to Master Gregory. Don't see the physician. Don't get bled. You stay home. Let Sarah care for you. Let your body handle it however it can. You don't recover, but you also don't get actively worse from treatments. You just decline. Slowly, naturally. William and Margaret visit often, sit with you, talk. You tell them stories about Alima, about the steps, about different worlds and different rules. Margaret especially listens, absorbs, remembers. One day she asks, Papa, will I ever see that world where women can own things and make decisions? Not in your lifetime. You say honestly, maybe not for many lifetimes, but someday, I think someday. How can you be sure? Because humans change slowly, but we change. We learn, we adapt, not just to circumstances, but to new ideas, new possibilities. Even if it takes centuries, even then, she cries, you hold her hand, try to comfort her. I'm sorry, you say. I'm sorry you were born in this time, in this place where the rules limit you. It's not your fault, Margaret says. No, but I see it now, can't unsee it. That's the curse of understanding. Once you know things could be different, it's hard to accept them as they are. And Father Benedict comes to give you last rites. You accept them. You're not sure what you believe anymore, but the ritual brings comfort, community, continuity. Did I ever tell you, Father Benedict says quietly, that I think you're right? You look at him surprised. About questioning, he continues, about wondering if things could be better. I think you're right, but I also think it's dangerous. And I don't know which matters more, being right or being safe. Maybe both, you say. Maybe we need people who question and people who preserve. Tension between change and stability. That's how we move forward without destroying ourselves. Perhaps, Father Benedict says, perhaps. You die on a cold morning in January 1283, 52 years old, surrounded by family. Not young, not old, average for someone who survived childhood in medieval times. Your life was ordinary, a miller, a husband, a father. Nothing remarkable, except for the dreams, except for the understanding, except for the questions you learned to ask. You're buried in the churchyard at St. Mary's, among the bones, among the generations of Kent residents who came before and will come after. Your grave will be dug up eventually, your bones stacked, added to the collection, part of the church itself. That's normal. That's how it works. But Margaret stands at your funeral and thinks this doesn't have to be normal. Someday things will be different. She doesn't know how, doesn't know when, but she carries your questions, your understanding, your refusal to accept everything as inevitable. And she'll pass it on to her children, who'll pass it to theirs, slowly, across generations. The questions spread. Why do we do things this way? Could they be different? Should they be different? Not everyone asks. Most people just accept, just survive. just adapt. But some people, a few always, just a few, they question. They wonder, they imagine different possibilities. And over centuries, those questions accumulate, build pressure, eventually force change. That's how progress happens, not through sudden revolution, but through slow accumulated questioning, through people who've seen alternative possibilities and can't pretend they haven't. Thomas the Miller was one of those people. Ordinary, unremarkable, but touched by something, dreams, visions, imagination, whatever you want to call it, that let him see beyond his time. And though he never changed anything himself, he planted seeds. Questions, doubts, possibilities. That's enough. That's all anyone can do. Plant seeds and hope someday they grow. Damn. Epilogue. The echoes reach forward 1,000 words. It's 2025 now. You're sitting in front of a screen, late at night, reading this story, thinking about Thomas, about Alima, about medieval times and Mongol empires and different ways of being human. And you're asking yourself the question they asked, what are we normalizing now? What are we accepting without question? What will future generations look back on and think, how did they live like that? You don't have answers, neither did they. But here are some possibilities. Things that future people might find as horrifying as we find medieval bones in graveyards. The way we isolate elderly people, put them in facilities, away from family, away from life, let them die alone, surrounded by strangers. The way we hide death, sanitize it, make it happen in hospitals and funeral homes, keep children away. Pretend it's not natural, not inevitable. The way we allow some people to have so much while others have nothing. Call it fair. Call it earned. Call it just the way things are. The way we destroy the environment, use up resources, poison the air and water, and tell ourselves it's necessary. It's progress. It's normal. The way we're connected to millions but lonelier than ever, staring at screens, alone together, calling it community, the way we medicate everything, anxiety, sadness, restlessness, difference, believing chemistry can fix humanity, just like medieval doctors believed bleeding could fix illness. Maybe these things are necessary. Maybe they're the best we can do with current circumstances. Maybe changing them would cause more harm than good, or maybe they're just choices we made and forgot we made, things we normalized, things we could change if we were brave enough to try. You don't know, can't know, not yet, not while you're living it. That's the pattern. That's always the pattern. But here's what Thomas and Alima would tell you. Question, always question, even when everyone else accepts, especially then. Look for alternative possibilities. Other worlds, other rules, other ways of being human. Don't assume current normal is inevitable normal. Don't assume progress is automatic. Don't assume we're enlightened just because we're modern. Every age has its blind spots, its normalized cruelties, its accepted horrors, including ours. The question isn't whether they exist. They do. They always do. The question is, can you see them? Can you name them? Can you imagine something different? Most people can't. Most people just adapt, just survive, just accept. That's normal. That's human. That's okay. But some people, a few, always just a few, they see the cracks. They ask the questions. They imagine alternatives. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe that's why you're still reading, why this story resonated. Why you're sitting here at 2 a.m. thinking about medieval graveyards and Mongol empires and what it means to normalize the abnormal. If so, congratulations and condolences. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you start questioning, you can't fully stop. Once you understand that normal is just a choice, you can never fully accept it as inevitable again. That's the curse of awareness, the burden of understanding. But it's also the beginning of change. Because change only happens when enough people refuse to accept things as they are. When enough people ask, could this be different? Should this be different? You're asking those questions now, whether you realize it or not. This story has planted them in your mind, just like Thomas's questions were planted in Margaret's mind, just like those questions spread across generations. That's how it works, slowly, imperfectly, across centuries. But it works. The world changes, gradually, painfully. But it changes because people like Thomas asked questions. People like Alima showed alternatives. People like Margaret carried the questions forward. People like you are reading this now and thinking, what am I normalizing? What should I question? That's enough. That's all anyone can do. Ask questions. Imagine alternatives. Refuse to accept that current normal is inevitable normal. You won't change the world. Probably, most of us don't, but you'll plant seeds. And somewhere, sometime, those seeds will grow into new questions, new possibilities, new versions of normal. That's the legacy. That's the echo. That's what reaches forward across time. Not answers, questions, not solutions, possibilities, not certainty, doubt. And in that doubt, in that questioning, in that refusal to simply accept, that's where change begins. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift towards sleep, remember Thomas and Alima. Remember medieval graveyards and Mongol empires? Remember that normal is just what we've learned to tolerate. And ask yourself, what am I tolerating? What am I normalizing? What should I question? You might not have answers. That's okay. Neither did they. But asking is enough. Wondering is enough. Refusing to simply accept is enough. That's how the echoes move forward. That's how the past teaches the future. That's how ordinary people in ordinary times do extraordinary things. By questioning, by wondering, by refusing to call horror normal just because everyone else does. That's the lesson from Thomas, from Alima, from every person who's ever looked at their world and thought, this doesn't have to be this way. They were right. Things don't have to be this way. They can be different, better, worse, just different, but only if enough people are willing to question, to imagine, to try. Are you willing? That's the question, the only question that matters. And like all important questions, only you can answer it. Good night, sleep well. And when you wake up tomorrow, look at your world with fresh eyes. The eyes of someone who knows that normal is a lie, that humanity can adapt to anything, and that adaptation is both our greatest strength and our greatest danger. What will you see? What will you question? What will you refuse to accept? Whatever it is, you're part of the echo now, part of the chain, part of the story that reaches forward across time. Make it count. The end. Total word count, 18,000 words.